Hello, Slate with Combo of Rocks here, bringing you another video deck tech of a deck that we built and have one for sale in the TikTok shop. If you're not familiar with us, we make and sell custom budget EDH decks. These decks are light on the budget, so they may not be optimal or competitive, but they're definitely fun and centered around a central theme that you can build on. Today we have Krenko Mob Boss, which is 2 red for a 3/3 legendary Goblin Warrior. That says you can tap him to create X 1/1 red Goblin creature tokens, where X is the number of Goblin creatures you already control. So doubling the number of goblins, this guy can get out of control. They can also create lots and lots of goblins, but let's get into the rest of the video deck tech.
Alright, so we have another Krenko in 10 Street Kingpin. 2 red for a 1/2 legendary creature goblin. When it attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it, then create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to its power. And Krenko Baron of 10 Street. 2 red for a 3/3 legendary goblin with haste. Tap and sack an artifact, put a 1/1 counter on each goblin you control. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you can pay red. When you do, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that gains haste until end of turn. Botchlick Mons, 2 red for a 2/2 legendary goblin warrior. When it or another goblin you control dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. You can pay 3 in red, sack a goblin to create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. We have Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker, 2 and 3 red for a 2/2 legendary goblin shaman with haste. Tap and create a token that's a copy of another target non-legendary creature you control, except it has haste. Sack at the beginning of the next end step, which combos with Conspicuous Snoop. Red for a 2/2 goblin rogue. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You can cast goblins from the top of your library. As long as the top card of your library is a goblin card, it has all activated abilities of that card. So if Kiki Jiki is on the top of our library, he actually has all the activated abilities of Kiki Jiki. Then you can tap him to create a copy of himself, because Kiki Jiki's ability only cares about non-legendaries, which Conspicuous Snoop is a non-legendary creature. He can create infinite tokens of himself. You can also copy Skirk Fire Marshal's ability. 3 red for a 2/2 goblin with protection from red. Tap 5 untap goblins you control to have it deal 10 damage to each creature and each player. Note you can stack this ability before your goblins would die to the effect. If you have 10 goblins in play, you could tap 5 goblins twice. They deal 20 damage to each creature and player. House Squad Heavy, 2 red for a 2/3 goblin mercenary with start your engine, so your speed starts at 1. Each turn that your opponents lose life, your speed increases by 1, and then max speed is 4. Other goblins you control have haste. At the beginning of combat in your turn, create 1 red goblin creature token that attacks if able. If you have max speed, he taps for red for each goblin you control. Runevelt Horde Master, 1 red for 1/1 goblin warrior. Other goblins you control get +1/+1. Whenever it or another goblin you control dies, exile the top card of your library. It's a goblin. You may cast that card until your next turn. Goblin Chieftain, 1 red for a 2/2 goblin with haste. Other goblins you control also get +1/+1 and have haste. Seer Slicer Goblin, 1 red for a 2/1 goblin warrior. On your end step, if you get attacked, create 1 red goblin creature token. Goblin Goliath, 4 red for a 5/4 goblin mutant. When it enters, create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. Pay 3 red and tap. If a source you control will deal damage to an opponent this turn, it deals double that damage to that player instead. Legion War Boss, 2 red for a 2/2 goblin soldier with mentors. When it attacks, putting 1/1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create 1 red goblin creature token. That token gains haste until end of turn and attacks this combat if able. Goblin Marshal, 4 red for a 3/3 goblin with Echo. So on your next upkeep, you have to pay the mana cost or sag it. When it comes into play or is put into the graveyard from play, put 2 1 red goblin creature tokens into play. Siege Gang Commander, 3 red for a 2/2 goblin. When it enters, create 3 1 red goblin creature tokens. Pay 1 red and sack a goblin to deal 2 damage to any target. Treasure Napper, 2 red for a 3/2 goblin rogue. Whenever an opponent taps an artifact for mana, gain control of that artifact until the end of your next turn. Scuzzback Scrounger, 1 red for a 3/2 goblin warrior. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may blight 1, so put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. If you create a treasure token. Red Cap Gutter Dweller, 2 red for a 3/2 goblin warrior with menace. When it enters, creates 2 1/1 black rat creature tokens that can't block. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may sack another creature. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on this, then exile the top card of your library. You can play that card this turn. This gives us some sack fodder, but also a little bit of card advantage. Collective Inferno, 3 red enchantment with Convoke, so you can tap your creatures to help pay for its mana cost. As it enters, choose a creature type, so Goblin, double all damage that sources you control of the chosen type would deal. Chancellor of the Forge, 4 and 3 red for a 5/5 giant. If it's in your opening hand, you can reveal it. If you do, on your first upkeep, put a 1/1 red goblin creature token with haste onto the battlefield. When he enters, put X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens with haste onto the battlefield, where X is the number of creatures you control. Mog Infestation, 3 red sorcery, destroy all creatures target player controls. For each creature that died this way, put 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens on the battlefield under that player's control. You can actually destroy all of your own creatures to create a bunch of goblins. Insult and Injury, 2 red sorcery, damage can't be prevented this turn. If a source you control will deal damage, it would deal double that damage instead. From the graveyard, 2 red injury is a sorcery. It deals 2 damage to a creature and 2 damage to target player. Chaos Warp, 2 red instant, the owner of target permanent shuffles it into the library, then reveals the top card of their library to a permanent card. They put it on the battlefield, just a good catch, all in red. Goblin Warrens, 2 red enchantments, pay 2 red, sack 2 goblins, put 3 goblins into play, treat these as 1 red goblin creature tokens. Cursed Mirror, 2 red artifact taps red, as it enters you can have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield except it has haste. Door of Destinies, 4-mana artifact, when it enters, choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, put a charge counter on it. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1 for each charge counter on the artifact. Champion's Helm, a 3-mana equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 as long as it's legendary. It has hexproof with equip 1, just some good protection for Krenko. Lightning Greaves, 2-mana equipment. Equipped creature has haste and shroud with equip 0. Swiftfoot Boots, 2-mana 1 to equip equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Patriarch Seal, 3-mana artifact, taps for mana of any color. A 1-tap to untap target legendary you control, untapping Krenko to use his ability again. Avengers Mountain Station, or Herald's Horn, 3-mana artifact. When it enters, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. It's the creature of the chosen type, and you reveal it and put it into your hand. Heraldic Banner, 3-mana artifact. When it enters, choose a color. Creatures of the chosen color get +1/+0 and taps for mana of the chosen color. Mind Stone, 2-mana artifact, taps for colorless. 1 tap and sack it to draw a card. So Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, Fire Diamond, 2-mana artifact, enters taps for red. Wayfarer's Bauble, 1-mana artifact, 2 tap and sack it. Search your library for basic land. Put on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Collector's Vault, 2-mana artifact, 2 tap, draw a card, discard a card, and create a treasure token. We need ways to create mana, but also ways to sack artifacts. Ravenous Ambulance, 2-mana artifact, 1 tap and sack a creature, draw a card, put a soul counter on it, 4 tap and sack the artifact. Each opponent loses life equal to the number of soul counters on the artifact. Arms Dealer, 2 red, 1/1 goblin, pay 1 red, sack a goblin, deals 4 damage to target creature. Brightstone Ritual, 1 red instant adds red to your mana pool for each goblin in play. Goblin Churgeon, 1 red for a 0/2 goblin, pay 0 and sack a goblin to regenerate target creature. Sparksmith, 1 red, 1/1 goblin, tap it to deal X damage to a creature and X damage to you, where X is the number of goblins in play. Goblin Assassin, 3 red for 2/2 Goblin Assassin. Whenever it or another goblin enters into your control, each player flips a coin. Each player whose coin comes up tails sacrifices a creature. Skirk Prospector, 1 red for 1/1 goblin, sack a goblin to add a red to your mana pool. Gleeful Demolition, 1 red sorcery, destroys an artifact. If you control that artifact, create 3 1/1 red goblin Phyrexian creature tokens. Again, good for sacking treasure tokens too. Coldotha Rebirth, 1 red sorcery, just costs to cast, sack an artifact to put 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens into play. Impulsive Pilferer, 1 red for 1/1 goblin pirate. When it dies, create a treasure token. You can encore it from your graveyard for 3 red, exiling it from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent if able. They gain haste, sack them at the beginning of the next end step, giving you more treasure tokens. Goblin Negotiations, X red sorcery deals X damage to target creature. Create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to the amount of excess damage dealt to that creature this way. Goblin War Chief, 1 red 2/2 goblin warrior, costs goblin spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Goblins you control have haste. Bogart Shenanigans, 2 red for a kindred enchantment goblin. Whenever another goblin you control is put to a graveyard from play, you may have it deal 1 damage to target player. Gem Palm Incinerator, 2 red for 2/1 goblin with cycling 1 red. When you cycle it, you can have it deal X damage to target creature, where X is the number of goblins on the battlefield. To cycle, you discard it and draw a card. Impact Tremors, 1 red's enchantment. Whenever a creature enters under your control, does 1 damage to each opponent. This can be quite brutal in the deck. Steam Scourger, 1 red for a 2/2 goblin warrior with echo 3 red. When it enters, return a creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Volley Veteran, 3 red for a 4/2 goblin warrior. When it enters, it deals damage to target creature an opponent controls equal to the number of goblins you control. Wily Goblin, for 2 red, you get a goblin pirate. When it enters, create a treasure token. Maga Warrior Marshal, 1 red for 1/1 goblin warrior, echo 1 red. When it enters or dies, put a 1/1 red goblin creature token onto the battlefield. Dragon Fodder, 1 red sorcery, creates 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Goblin Ringleader, 3 red for 2/2 goblin with haste. When it enters, reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put all goblins revealed this way into your hand, the rest in the bottom in random order. Rob the Archives, 1 red sorcery with casualty 1, so as you cast it, you can sack a creature with power 1 or greater. Exile the top 2 cards of your library, you can play those cards this turn, just some good card advantage in red. Opera Love Song, 1 red, instant choose 1, exile the top 2 cards of your library, you can play those cards until your next end step, or 1 and 2 target creatures each get +2/+0 until end of turn. Suplex, 1 red, sorcery deals 3 damage to a creature. If it would die, exile instead, or exiles an artifact. Abrade, 1 red, instant choose 1, deals 3 damage to a creature or destroys an artifact. Sundering Eruption, 2 red sorcery destroys a land. Its controller may search for a basic, put on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Creatures without flying can't block this turn. On the backside, it can be a tapped or untapped red land, depending if you want to pay 3 life. Den of the Bugbear, enters tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. Taps for red, 3 red, it becomes a 3/2 red goblin creature token. When it attacks, creating 1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking. It's still a land. Castle Embereth, enters tapped unless you control a mountain. Taps for red, 1 red tap. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Mines of Moria is a legendary land. Enters tapped unless you control a legendary creature. Taps for red, 3 red tap. Exile 3 cards to your graveyard to create 2 treasure tokens. Fogwell's Gem, it taps for red, deals a damage to you. 2 red tap, discard a card to draw a card. Smoldering Crater, enters taps for red, cycles for 2 colorless. Soulstone Sanctuary, taps for colorless or 4, it becomes a 3/3 creature with vigilance and all creature types such as Goblin. It's still land. Goblin Burrows, taps for colorless, 1 red tap, target Goblin gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Weird Landscape enters tap, taps for colorless, 2 tap and sack, search for 2 basics, a share basic land type, so mountain, they go on the battlefield top, then shuffle. Ominous Sanctuary, taps for colorless, 5 tap and exile to shuffle a creature to its owner's library. Volatile Fault is a cave, taps for colorless, 1 tap and sack to destroy a non-basic land opponent controls. They search for a basic, put on the battlefield, then you create a treasure token. Looming Spires enters tap, taps for red. When it enters, target creature gets +1/+1 against first strike until end of turn. Smoldering Spires enters tap, taps for red. When enters, target creature can't block this turn. And Teetering Peaks enters tap, taps for red. When enters, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. And then a slew of mountains here. That's the deck. I hope you enjoyed it, but we'll see you for the next deck video.